Hi everyone, I'm Paula and welcome back to Jubilant SPR. Today I'm going to show you step by step how to distill a homemade citrus vinegar. If you've been fermenting vinegar with any type of citrus, sugar and water and it's gone through its second fermentation, it's finally ready to distill. I have made a previous video on how to make citrus vinegar, please watch that first. In this video, I'll cover everything from preparation to storage and why you'd even want to distill your vinegar in the first place. So let's get into distilling. Distillation is a process of separating a liquid from a mixture containing dissolved solids or mixture of liquids. It separates liquids by heating and condensing. Our strained vinegar mixture is heated up and as it starts to evaporate will produce a vapour. The vapour will rise and pass through a tube, travel through the cold condenser area to convert to a pure liquid collected at the outlet. The process of distillation separates the components of a liquid based on its different boiling points. This means that some components of the vinegar will be distilled at a lower temperature and some other solids and liquids which require a higher temperature will stay in the distiller pot and not get distilled. When distilling our vinegar, it removes the impurities and leftover sugars and concentrates the acetic acid. This results in a cleaner, smoother, stronger and long-lasting vinegar being more shelf-stable. It is especially useful if you want it for cleaning and cooking. Distilled vinegar is also less cloudy and smells fresher. Just so you know, this type of distillation is not alcoholic. It is a concentrated vinegar and it can take several hours to produce. Please don't leave the distiller unattended. Before we begin, make sure you have the following ready: citrus vinegar after second fermentation, fine mesh strainer and cheesecloth to strain further, cooker stove or hot plate, distilling pot, distiller outlet flute and airlock, condenser unit and temperature gauge, several sets of frozen ice flasks or coolers, plastic container to capture liquid, measuring jug, and clean plastic bottles for vinegar storage. Just want to make sure these supplies are clean to limit the risk of bacteria. We want to make sure that the liquid is strained from peels and pulp before starting to distill. Strain the liquid one last time with cheesecloth as leftover pulp sediments can scorch and spoil the distillate. The cleaner the liquid going into the still, the better the output distilled liquid. Pour all the strained vinegar inside the distiller pot. So all the bucket of vinegar is now in the pot. My distiller holds about 50 litres, but you can easily use a smaller one for your needs. If you have a much smaller one, please leave some headroom and don't overfill. Grab your coolers or ice packs from the freezer and place them inside the condenser unit of the distiller. These will help condense the steam back into liquid. Lift up the condenser unit and place onto the pot. Clamp the lid down tightly, ensuring it's sealed properly. If you are doing the distillation indoors, make sure you open your windows and ventilate or do it outdoors. Distillation can release strong fumes. Good ventilation prevents headaches and lingering smells. I know the very first time I distilled my vinegar, I had a headache for days and that strong smell was in the house for days. Position the distiller on your cooker stove or hot plate. Make sure you have the temperature gauge and distiller outlet flute attached and a container below it to catch the distilled liquid. For the moment, I am turning the cooker on high to start warming up the liquid, and then I will be lowering the temperature a little later on. Temperature rising, distiller starting to heat. The goal is to gradually build the liquid to a boil. Wait patiently. It may take a while to get to temperature, especially if you have a large batch. At around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, 122 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, lower the cooking temperature to medium heat. Monitor the temperature. You want to see it climb to over 90 degrees Celsius, 194 degrees Fahrenheit. Getting closer now to seeing something happen. You may be able to hear some bubbling noises and steam coming out from the condenser outlet flute. The key temperature to watch for is around 96 degrees Celsius, 205 degrees Fahrenheit. You will notice the first drops of distilled liquid appear in the condenser flute. If this is your first time, well done. Once the vapor hits the top of the still, it travels through the condenser where it cools and turns back into liquid through the outlet. Hope you have a big enough container underneath the outlet to capture the vinegar as the liquid comes out in sudden spurts. Once you have hit the right temperature, the process will stabilize. I have been noticing this temperature around 96 degrees Celsius, 205 degrees Fahrenheit maintained whilst collecting citrus vinegar distillate. Every now and then, you can pour your distilled vinegar from the container into the measuring jug. I know what you are thinking. Is that all I got? Be patient, more liquid will come. Collected 100 ml of distilled vinegar. Collected 300 ml of distilled vinegar. Keep collecting the liquid in clean container and measuring jug. Don't rush. This process can take many hours. A big batch might take all day or extend to 2 days. I have some additional ice coolers here straight from the freezer. About every hour or two, monitor the coolers in the condenser unit. Ensure that the coolers are still icy or cold. If getting on warmer side, replace them with fresh iced ones to keep the condensation going. Place the old ones immediately back in the freezer. With these used coolers, all ice has melted away and are feeling warm. They certainly needed replacing. Now that you've got enough of your distilled citrus vinegar, pour it into clean plastic bottles. Label each bottle with the contents and date. Store at room temperature away from direct sunlight, and they can last for years thanks to the acidity. When your batch is done or your liquid is running low, it's time to turn it off. Turn off the cooker and let the equipment cool naturally. The distiller will stay hot for a while. Do not try to move or disassemble while hot. It might take several hours or overnight to fully cool. Whilst cooling down, it should be safe to close the windows if working indoors. Distilling is a patient process. I often stretch the distillation out over 2 days when working with large batches. How I do this is running it for 5 or 6 hours on one day during daylight using solar electricity, cooling it down and heating it back up the next day for another 5 or 6 hours. Once the distiller has cooled down completely, empty the distiller containing any residue of non-distilled liquid. Clean the equipment thoroughly after every use to keep it in top shape for next time. Distilling your own citrus vinegar at home isn't just satisfying, it's incredibly useful. It does take time, but the result is totally worth it. It is clear, concentrated, shelf-stable, and perfect for cleaning, skincare, and more. Thanks for watching. Please drop any questions in the comments, like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Jubilant preserving.